Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's On the Sofa. We're privileged to have Rob Angus, Matt Walters, James Spencer, and Alex Pollock on tonight. So, from the club and the trust to talk everything Swindon Town. So, let's get Vic on because I'm sure it'll be a busy night. Hiya, Vic.
Chris, very good evening to you. It only seems a couple of days since we met last time. Oh, it was.
Oh, yes, it does. I think it was, wasn't it? No rest for the wicked, as they say.
Absolutely. You're well, I hope.
I am absolutely fine. Can't say anything for the weather. It's actually pouring here at the minute. So.
Oh, hang on. Oh, it's a lovely sunset in Devon.
Yeah, great. Well, we're due snow overnight, so there you go. So they say, but that is. Okay, so shall we bring everybody on? So
why not?
Let's bring Rob on. Evening, Rob.
Evening, Rob.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Vic.
Hiya.
Hey.
Matt, hiya.
Hi, everyone.
And Alex.
Evening.
Evening, James and Alex. Hiya.
Hiya. Right, so anybody that wants to leave a question, please do so. Leave it in the comments. We'll get to as many as we can. And as normal, any that we don't get through, we will take them and send them on to the club and the trust. Okay, so I'm going to leave you now, and I will speak to you later.
Chris, thanks very much indeed. Welcome along to a Wednesday night panel as opposed to a Monday night panel, but a very special one indeed because it's lovely to get the news on everything that's latest at the county ground. Lots to talk about in the next hour or so. Gentlemen, welcome. I'm very pleased that you're all here. Matt, your first time on this. It would be really nice just to get a few words about your general manager, I understand, but let's have a little bit about your background.
Hi, thanks, Vic. So it's great to be on it for the first time. I've been working part-time here since 2016. Started off as an intern analyst whilst I was doing my degree at Cardiff Met. And then gradually that has progressed. I even was doing the kit for a couple of months when the kit man was off sick, and just slowly progressed into different things. And then I was offered a full-time role when I finished my degree. And then that has progressed into where I am now. I got offered this position back in April of last year, just as everything started to go belly up. So that was that was like being thrown into the fire, really. And then since then, the last 9 months have been brilliant, been absolutely hectic. But we've come a long way. So, we're in a much better place than we were now.
Yeah, the obvious question is how it's changed since last April till now. I would imagine immensely, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, 100%. It's crazy to think sometimes you get carried away and then you have to sit back and just think, actually, you know what, how far we've come. There's still a heck of a long way to go, but we have come a long way. The atmosphere in and outside the club are obviously miles and miles apart in a good way, which is, down to everybody, both on and off the pitch, fans alike that have supported us, staff. I can always go back to the month of July when we weren't getting paid and the supporters dropped off lunches to our staff that were here. And it's kind of echoed that all the way through, that the support that the supporters have put back to the club this season has been brilliant. And it's definitely recognised by all of us staff here.
Wonderful. Your hometown club, I think, are coming here a week on Saturday, aren't they? Newport, dare I mention it, from just across the M4 and the bridge. But you've also spent a bit of time in Canada.
Yeah, moved over to Canada with my family, farming background. So we moved there when I was 15 and lived there for 8 years. Thoroughly enjoyed that, but then decided to move back to be closer to other family and friends. It was just the right timing, really. And then that's when I went and got my degree and started working at Swindon ever since. So a lot has happened in those years, but yeah, it was great experience. It does help when you see the rest of the world at times and how things are done differently. And there are quite a lot of sport, as you know, is massive over there. So having seeing sport over here, seeing sport over there are some similarities, but football in Britain is definitely tough to beat.
Yeah, of course, North America is pretty smart in its sports marketing. So there's a lot of lessons that sport over here can learn from sport over there, isn't there?
Oh, completely. And I think there are clubs, there are big clubs doing that now over here already. You look at Tottenham, what they're doing there. They're trying to make the most of that. And you've got your likes of Brentford, how their atmosphere on a match day and how they try and engage with fans and your whole fan zones, which they do. Don't get me wrong, the weather over in North America helps that. So if you've got 30 degrees all day, you can do it. But on a December on a Saturday here, might not want to sit outside for 6 hours. But yeah, there are things that you can take from it, definitely.
Well, we've had a comment from Ray Murphy, who I believe you might know. He says Matt has had his hair done special for this. So is that true?
Definitely, actually got it done yesterday. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, we're very grateful. Thank you. I had
think he's
my
just
hair done
jealous.
especially for it yesterday as well. So there we are.
There we go.
Marvelous. Right. Thank you, Matt, for that. It's nice to have you and in terms of along on the panel, and hopefully we can speak to you again in the not too distant future. It'd be great to have you along.
Definitely.
Rob, hello to you. Very good evening to you.
Evening, Vic. Evening, everybody.
Yeah. How are you? I mean, are you managed to get home at any point in your life, or are you still 24 hours at the football club?
No, I get a little bit of time, and obviously we had a weekend off, so a little bit of time with the family then on the Saturday and the Sunday. But look, things are busy. You know, obviously Matt and the team work really hard. Everyone does off the pitch as well as those on the pitch. But we, hope a lot of work to do, but hopefully we're getting there.
Okay, well, we've got questions coming in already. Alex and James, hello to you. And it seems like going back to the summer when all we did was talk about court cases. I've got lots of other things to talk about tonight, Alex, but my goodness me, there were some moments, weren't they?
Yeah, I think it was around about this time last year where we first started coming on Monday Night Panel. I remember some of those days that James and I had along with Stuart, where we'd get up early in the morning, spend most of the day on a virtual court case and frantically flap around for half an hour between ourselves trying to understand what had just taken place those preceding 8 hours. And thankfully, we had James Mayton, who's the trust lawyer, who helped us kind of dig through all of that information at the time. But to now be a year on to where we are now, it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you did a splendid job in explaining it to everybody, I have to say. And James, I mean, you've been on talking about football as well, which is quite a thing, isn't it? Actually, to talk about football at Swindon Town, quite honestly.
It makes a very nice change from, like Alex said, this time last year, where I think I managed to teach myself law. In about 24 hours. It was a bit mad, really. But just echoing what Alex said, really. I think had we not had James Mason, we as the trust lawyer, we wouldn't have got anywhere near being able to kind of describe in layman's terms what the heck was going on, because certainly at face value I didn't really understand a lot of it, but ultimately he explained a lot of it to us, and we learned lots of new things. So extra things to put on the CV, Alex? Law.
Very good. Well, we will ask about the court case a little bit later on, but lots to get through. And let's start off with season tickets, Rob, because Malcolm sent this question in. Why no early bird deals on season tickets this year? Surely this would help cash flow given no card payments available. Let's talk about the no card payments. I've got to say straight off, I renewed our season tickets yesterday, got an email confirmation today. Matt, thank you. The process was brilliant. So, as far as I'm concerned, a really smooth process. But why the decision about no early bird deals?
Well, in terms of no early bird deals, look, we wanted to put the prices out and get the renewal pricing out. We wanted to make it simple. Obviously, we need to put the prices up to reflect inflation, the cost of the club, and trying to make it sustainable. But we wanted to make a simple position. We think the prices we put out are fair and reasonable for the football that you get to watch. From £16 a game. And we thought that was the right way to go, from our perspective. Want me to cover the card piece as well, Vic?
Yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely. The debit and credit cards, yeah.
Yeah. So look, the reason for no debit or credit cards really comes down to the risk that merchant card acquirers are willing to take. They look at football clubs much differently now, post the likes of Bury and Macclesfield going out of business, with the financial history of the club. And we haven't yet filed a year of accounts based on the firm's ownership, which will obviously be filed later on, because the year's not up until later in the summer. That will show a much healthier position, but in the interim, the football club doesn't look great given its sort of past financial position. There's still the winding up position that's out, which puts a black box against most of the merchant card acquirers, and on that basis, they weren't willing to take the risk of season tickets, which obviously is one payment, but the goods are delivered, if you like, over the number of games that we pay. So therefore, we've gone on the options of bank transfer, cash or our financing option V12. And it's great to hear, Vic, that process worked well for you, for those looking to renew.
Yeah, I know Chris has got her season ticket email through, and Andrew Cousins, who appears on this panel regularly, he's done his and he's got his through. Matt, how difficult's that been? Because you're at the sharp end in terms of sorting out emails. So has that been easy or difficult?
I wouldn't say difficult. It's just time consuming. So what's happening is we're having to get sent a spreadsheet every morning by our finance team, who we then go through all the different bank payments that have been made, match them up with their client reference number, which is why it's so important that we get that client reference. So then we put that into the ticketing system. It tells us that, yes, that's how much they paid the correct amount. We then choose their seat and confirm it, which is basically what fans would do on Ticketmaster if they were doing it through that, or if the staff would do it in the shop. And then once that's done, we reserve that, hold that, and then Ella or myself will then send out a confirmation email confirming that we know everything is successful. Or if it's not, then we say, oh, perhaps you've paid too much. Can you send us your bank details so we can send you the right amount back? Or other way around, which luckily we haven't had any of the other way arounds yet, which is great. But it's not so much it's not difficult, it's just time consuming. But we've been dealt the hand we've been dealt, so we'll just make the best of it.
So do you know in the first 24 hours how many you've sold, or is that difficult to say?
Yeah, as of 6:45, we've done 354, and that's a mixture of split between about 130 bank transfer, 90 finance, and 130 cash.
So is that, Rob, where you kind of wanted it to be? Is that ahead of where you wanted it to be? What would you say?
Well, I think it's a healthy start. Of course, you always want more, Vic. That's what you want to try and do. And we're obviously trying to get, more season ticket holders than we had last year. And I think after the half season tickets, we're up to about 4,500. I think that's the number. And obviously we're keen again to, if we can get to that 6,000 number we tried for last year, that'd be great. But we're just keen to get as many as we can. But I think it's a solid start. It's a good start. Obviously, they're out there. We're trying to get some competitions out there. I think one of the first 500 will get the ability to win back the value of their season ticket in credit from the club shop. And there'll be other competitions that we run as well. Matt and Ella and the team have got some good ideas that we'll run out there to try and encourage as many as possible to join us in getting a season ticket for next season.
Yeah, look, I guess, Matt, there's a feel-good factor still at the club, isn't there? And we still don't know which league we'll be in again next season. So, actually, if we do got to League One, the prices aren't bad, are they?
No, and it's difficult to base on averages in different clubs because every club is so different in the league. But when the team did look at averages based on last season's ticket prices, our season ticket prices this year were about 9th in League Two. It's one of those where every club's different, but I didn't think it was bad value. Yes, if we go up, it'd be very good value. But yeah, it's one of those things. We think we've gone out with a competitive pricing scheme, and unfortunately, we have to go up to cut the costs, like Rob said, to cover our costs, inflation. In a perfect world, of course, every team would keep them the same forever, but that's not the case.
It's a question from Mark for you, Matt. I'm looking to renew 3 season tickets, so presumably need to make 2 separate bank transfers, quoting 2 client reference numbers and 1 on the other one. Is that right? So I think it's a maximum of 2 on each transfer, isn't it?
Yes, mainly because there's a limit on the number of characters in a reference. So therefore, rather than getting some cut off, generally what happens, we've had a couple of that where they've done that, and because they're all linked to the same account, as when we click on one, it actually selects all 3. But to make sure that it's done right, if you can do it in 2 separate bank transfers, yes, that would be easiest. But if you do have any issues or concerns, if you email queries or contact them on the Twitter or phone, we are trying to answer them pretty quick. I don't think there were very many queues on the phones at all today, which is great. But yeah, as you answer your question, yeah, that is the best way of doing it.
Rob, just to clear up how long people have got to renew their seats for, because obviously that's a concern. If you've had like me, I've had my seat for a long time now. You don't particularly want to lose it, but how long have you got if you're renewing? I think it's May, isn't it? Sometime in May, is that right?
Yeah. I think it's about the 10th of May. Matt will correct me on the date.
No, you've got till the end of May before current season ticket holders lose their seat, but we start selling new ones in the middle of May. So you've got till the end of May.
Right. Okay. Fair
Plenty
enough.
of time, but get them quick. I'd still say.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it helps the club, doesn't it? The more you get in. Yeah, absolutely right. Right. Well, thank you for that. I think that's pretty much done the season ticket thing. If you've got any more questions on season tickets, of course, send them in. We're happy to ask them. Dave Seal says, Rob the Legend Angus. So there we are. That's a comment for you. Alex and James, how much consultation has there been between you and the club about season tickets? Has there been any? Or hang on a minute, I'll just get my secretary to answer the phone. Just bear with me.
Just get the PA, Vic.
How much consultation has there been?
I can answer that one if you like, because I think I was at the advisory board when it was one of the agenda items. So yes, they did. At the advisory board, both the official sports club and the trust, and that was when I attended. Clem and Rob went through the suggested cost of the tickets and asked for our feedback ultimately. And I think overwhelmingly we said, it seemed like a reasonable increase. When you look at it per game, it's very, very reasonable when you take a season ticket out. So yeah, obviously, we get asked a lot about a lot of initiatives the club are doing in terms of what our views are to try and feedback, I guess, the kind of fans' view, if you like, through to the club. That's one part of what the advisory board's all about, really. So yeah, it was good.
Alex, you happy with the way things have been done?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as a fan as well, I can see both sides of the argument. The cost of living, and we are kind of entering a bit of a cost of living crisis at the moment. The cost of everything is going up. So from a fan and a community perspective, it would be great for the season ticket price to stay the same. But ultimately, when the club present the facts, the way they present them to us around their costs increasing as well, it feels pretty justified. And obviously, since Clem's taken over, the club's been totally open and transparent with financing, the debt reduction, the investment that's been made into the club on and off the field. And we know that all of the money that is coming into the club from season tickets, commercials, advertising, everything from that perspective is being reinvested back into our football club. So ultimately, from a trust perspective, we're here to represent the thoughts and feelings of our members. And if the club ever want to, kind of tap into that, we're there to help them do that. But from the advisory board perspective, the way everything's presented and justified to us, we thought the increase was kind of justified this year.
Okay, Rob, a couple more questions have come in, actually. This is a comment. Darren says, renewed mine half an hour ago using the V12 Finance 3-month option. Took me 5 minutes. Piece of cake. Come on, you Reds. So there we are. That's a positive. This is from Mitchell. What's going on with Junior Reds this year? Wasn't it a free season ticket with a Junior Red membership? Was hoping to sign my son up. What's the situation with Junior Red?
The situation is that we sort of gone with a price for under 11s of £40. Now we haven't put Junior Reds in, partly because we're just looking at seeing what we can offer and do. That's not to say we're not going to run it and do it, and there will be initiatives that we do. We encourage everybody to renew, but we are looking at ways that we can freshen things up when it comes to Junior Reds and making sure that all of our, if you like, under 11 season ticket holders get good value, get access, if you like, to the room in the Don Rogers stand, the Robbins room there, and more things besides. So we're just working that sort of through. And we'll come back later, but we want to get that access to everybody who takes a under 11 season ticket.
So there may well be a Junior Red season ticket deal at some point.
Yeah. I mean, and look, what we're trying to do, and you can see that with some of the offers we've offered season ticket holders more broadly, we're trying to get you more value, if you like, from the discounts from the varying partners, and we're reaching out and we're trying to get some more that we can offer. So we want to try and feel like more of a general club when you're a season ticket holder, and you're getting more value not only from Swindon Town, but from some of our key partners as well.
Tony says we're happy with the price of season tickets. Matt James says, are nationwide ticket offers still running next season? Is there going to be a tie-up with Nationwide?
Yes,
yeah,
as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, we're in discussions. We're nearly there, so we expect that to continue.
Okay, lovely. Tracy says, why is there no discount for a renewal family season ticket, rewarding loyalty as with individual ones? Price the same for renewal or new?
I think it's just the way we've done it shortly, and we're trying to sort of do it in a straightforward way. I mean, if we think that the price for both, for an adult and a child at £19 a game, and for 2 adults and a child at £25 a game, we think that's really good value. But we've held them as we've done before at the same price.
Okay, Anthony says season tickets such good value. If people can't afford one, then club together and share with friends / family. Tamsin says, need to comment, Swindon Town FC tickets on Twitter, amazing. Always such a quick, friendly response for any questions. John, are the club doing the digital version of the season ticket again next season, like this season? If so, when would this become available? Matt, do you want to answer that one? You're the one on the phone, as it were.
Yeah, the digital one will be available. Everything will take place probably end of June. We'll do all in one go, so that'll be the same with digital as well as the as well as the actual paper copy, hard copy. But we're waiting until end of June, and then everything will be done at the same time then.
And will those hard copies be sent out, or we'll have to collect them? What will happen?
Yeah, sent out.
Okay, fair enough. Mitchell, another comment from Mitchell. I had reservations about without the use of credit card or bank cards, etc. However, did the finance options yesterday. It was super easy, no extra cost, and super easy. Price is fair in my eyes. I was expecting 400 plus, so can't moan. So there we are. I think there are obviously questions, Rob, that people want answered. And I'm assuming that whenever people have questions, you're more than happy to answer them. Yeah. And, and if they've got genuine concerns about financing it, because we are in tough times, let's be honest, you'll talk to them about the things that they can actually go through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's part of the reason why we've got the financing option out there, that allows you to spread the payment over 3 months or 9 months. But we're always happy to answer questions. We're open, we're transparent, we'll explain the reasons why. And very happy to keep that dialogue going, as we obviously do, as James said, in the advisory board, but also, we're always available to come on here and chat with you and answer questions.
Yeah, right. There's lots more coming in, so I'm going to get through them as much as I can, but I think we ought to start on the ground redevelopment, and already questions are coming in on this. So, Alex and James, let's talk to it from the trust point of view. As I understand it, it's a 50-50 share. Correct me if I'm wrong along the way. How is it being financed? Is it coming, the 50% from the club coming out of Clem's pocket and the 50% from the trust coming out of memberships? How's it all working as far as you're concerned?
Do you want me to take that one, James? So the latest developments, obviously, for the county grounds perspective, this is a conversation that has been going on for the last 7 years with the council. It's taken a huge amount of effort, a huge amount of time to get to the point where we're at. Recently, that price with the council was agreed. From the club and the trust perspective, we had a particular valuation. The council obviously had their own independent valuation, and we negotiated and met somewhere in the middle. That was went through cabinet a couple of weeks ago, was approved there, and then the following week was approved by the council scrutiny committee unanimously, which is great. It's a real good kind of vote of confidence for everything that's going on. A couple of years ago, the trust placed the county ground under protection of something called an asset of community value, which basically meant that the ground would be protected from redevelopment and sale. Because that's in place, we now have to go through a period of 6 weeks called a moratorium, where there is the opportunity for other community groups to express an interest in purchasing the county ground. It's a standard process. It's nothing for us to worry about. Ultimately, the council still have the final say as to who they're going to sell to, and we've got a really good relationship with them at the moment. The final valuation was 2.3 million. And we'll have to now go through that kind of administrative and legal process of what the next steps are, and of course secure the funding for it. We had been having discussions with different parties around securing some funding for that, and also Clem is looking at other alternatives as well. So hopefully in the kind of next few weeks or the next month or so, we should have finalised how we actually process that purchasing. We've set up a limited company, which is a joint venture between Swindon Town Football Club and also Swindon Town Community Mutual, which is the official name of Trust STFC. There's a 50% stake for each of those parties in that, and there'll be representatives from the club on the joint venture board, and there'll be representatives from the trust, and there'll hopefully be an independent chair for that. Going forward, in terms of maintenance and redevelopment, obviously we'll cross those bridges when we come to it, but we were previously talking about offering shares and purchasing shares in the county ground for fans. Because of some of the legalities around how we operate as a community mutual and some of the governance behind that, it's very unlikely that we will be selling individual shares. And the way that we will now process this is we will ensure that every member of the trust becomes a shareholder in the county ground. So on an annual basis, that 1969 fee that we've previously spoken about will be an annual fee for the trust membership. £1 of that will secure your share in Trust STFC and your membership, and the remaining of that fee will go into the ongoing running costs and maintenance. So it's really great the progress that we've made where we're at. There's a significant amount of work to go in now from a legal and administrative and a financial perspective. But rest assured, as soon as more information becomes available and we progress through some of these things, we'll hop back on here. We'll have plenty of comms. We'll be doing lots of member engagement when we get to that stage.
Yeah, James, it was going to take 6 weeks, I think, wasn't it? That next step, a lot of work to do. Are you worried at all, or is it going to be plain sailing? How do you feel about that?
No, I think Alex, good explanation, by the way, Alex. I don't think I could have done better. So well done. I don't think anyone's worried about the 6 week period at all. It's a process like anything really that, with these legal things you have to go through ultimately. So it is what it is. And I don't think anyone's particularly, no one's worried about the kind of funding side of things. I think there's ultimately options. In terms of which final option is used, we'll obviously, as Alex said, communicate that once we know what that looks like. But there are multiple options, and whichever one we go with, will essentially purchase the ground. And as Alex said, we'll get the keys hopefully very, very soon. So
that'll be a great moment for everybody. Right, a couple of questions, Matt and Rob. I don't know who wants to take one each if you wish. This is from Carl. Will the fans be involved in the design? And Dan says, when the county ground sale goes through, does any expansion or redevelopment go through the council to get planning permission? And what does the council think of the draft plans that were shown at the Trust AGM? Now, if I remember rightly, I haven't got the plans in front of me, but it's a redevelopment of the town end, including a hotel. There's redevelopment of the Stratton Bank and lots of other things going on as well. So who wants to take that one?
I'll take those, Vic. First off, of course, we want to engage with the fans and supporters. I mean, that's, the part of the reason, Clem was very keen on the JV from the start and the advisory board, so that we can run through and we can discuss and we consult, because obviously we want supporter input, because ultimately supporters are going to enjoy the new stadium, the improved facilities, and want to make sure we get that right. So consultation and getting input will be, really important for us. And in terms of the plans that we set out, obviously they are early and high level plans, and we will employ some good architects and project managers to take this forward for us. But yeah, the developments will require planning permission from the council. Though the council have seen, and Steve Might and I presented those plans to the council back in the end of November, I think, and they're very positive about them. So I think that it makes a good start. But we will need to go through planning permission as part of the process. I mean, this will take time. Stadium developments don't happen overnight, especially when you're still playing football there, and that's the plan for us to do. But really important step for us. Really important that first time we're going to see some proper investment in the ground since 1994 when the Don Rogers stand was built. So it's really exciting times, but it will be a process that takes time.
Yeah, Matt, Dan says, has the club considered bringing in electronic advertising boardings for next season, seeing how successful and great it looked for the Man City game? Now, I'm assuming, Matt, they were brought in primarily for telly, but they did look pretty spectacular at night. Whether they look quite the same during the day, I don't know. But what's your thought on that?
Yeah, they were brought in because of that reason. But our commercial man, Danny, is actually in discussions with companies around that and weighing up the pros and cons and also the costs, because they don't come cheap, as you can imagine. So it's making sure it works, but then also making sure it just works consistently with the regulations, making sure we get the right size, because the last thing you want to do is go and spend money on them and then not work. But it is being thought about. It might be something that does happen in the future.
Yeah, this is from Sean. Evening, everyone. Rob said he was looking at the wind factor we endure some games. I see Newtown End will have corners filled in. Will club be looking to fill in the corner of the bank? Also, will those two corners be filled in at the front of the Arcles? Never understood why that wasn't done when the seating area was built. Now, as you probably know, I live near Exeter, and Exeter fans bemoan the county ground wind tunnel for the result a couple of years ago. What about the county? I mean, it is a thing, isn't it? Let's be honest. The county ground wind tunnel does exist.
Yeah, it is a thing, and I've been, Ben Garner's spoken to me about it and how we can reduce that. Because obviously, Ben and the team play some great football, want to keep on the deck, and the wind obviously disrupts that and make that harder for us to play the football we want to play. So it is something we're considering looking at. It's something that will be very much that we consider as we look at the stadium design. I was chatting to our stadium manager the other day, and he was referencing, he was involved, I think, in Wembley design a new build. And one of the things that you'll have to consider as we put things like a roof on the Stratton Bank, how we do it, and ensure the impact it has on the wind, and also the air flowing through to the pitch to allow the pitch to grow, etc. Yeah. So all things I didn't really realise, to be quite honest. So all things to learn and consider as we move forwards. But it's definitely something that we're keen to do. How can we sort of reduce the wind tunnel that is the county ground, and also as we develop the stadium, how can we ensure that we use as much as the space that we've got as possible? Because we're hoping, obviously, as we move forward and hopefully onwards and upwards, to fill the stadium many more times than just once or twice a season.
Yeah. I mean, wraparound stadiums cause their problems with pitches, don't they? Because it doesn't get the sunlight, it doesn't get, as you say, the wind. So, the groundsman, it doesn't make life easy for them either. So we must make that point. Derek says, personally, I found the electronic advertising boards were distracting at times. There you go. So that's the other side of the coin. From Tony, we're in the Don Rogers, possible being moved when the boxes are being built. Are we going to be consulted to a good result for both parties? And Carol says, where would the proposed boxes in the Don Rogers stand be located? Now, I think it's fair to say that Swindon need to move into the 21st century, Matt, get boxes. It's a thing that a lot of football clubs have got. Whereabouts might they be in the Don Rogers?
They will be just above where the go down to the concourse, so where the gantry kind of goes down to the concourse. There is something already in the back of the stand, kind of to help with that design. But most definitely, there will be consultation around it. It's not something that we're just going to lump on fans to say, "Yep, you got to move." And it will be done ahead of time. And we'll, like we say, we'll try and definitely do it to this benefit to both parties. But yeah, it is something that would be massive for the club, because it's not just a match day experience that it does. It would be on non-match day hospitality, for conferences and events. So there's lots of clubs that book them out on a daily basis for people to have small meetings. And then how the design of them is done is yet to be determined, but it could be that they open up into bigger spaces for different events. So yeah, it is something that is needed. It will be beneficial to the club. Consultation will happen with fans regarding their seats.
Yeah, I mean, some clubs, Blackpool, for instance, and West Ham at Upton Park, they used to have hotels in them, didn't they, for goodness sake?
Yep.
And then, they were used as hotel rooms. Right, let's have a look. There's lots more coming in. Alex and James, you might want to comment on this. Carl says the new town end has to involve the standing section to help the atmosphere. And Kevin says, how about, say, standing in the plans? Is that something you're pushing for?
I'm fully supportive of safe standing. Last week at the AGM, the question was raised as well, and Rob and Matt were both in attendance and gave some really good clarity on that. And I think it is something, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, that the club are exploring. But from a commercial perspective, there obviously is investment to bring that to life, and the standing doesn't necessarily increase attendance per se. So it would definitely be our hope that at some point in the future that conversation does come to fruition a bit more, and at some point in the near future, hopefully safe standing is available at the county grounds.
Yeah, James, what's your view on it? Because I know there have been issues with standing in the Don Rogers. Maybe we'll ask Rob about that in a minute. But what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think I kind of agree with what's been said already. I think ultimately, the whole reason for obviously as you said, we know there's been issues with standing in the Don Rogers, but obviously that's got better by ultimately the bar being in the town end, and obviously people standing etc. in the town. And I think the town end is kind of it's all set up really, isn't it? It's the kind of it's known as the hardcore fans that stand, support the club, make lots of noise. I don't think we want to necessarily disrupt that really. Plus also, having the bar in the back of the town end has certainly improved the situation with regards to the Don Rogers and standing, etc. So yeah, all good, I think.
Here's some on the Stratton Bank. This is from Dan. Would the Stratton Bank be used for home fans once the roof is put on it? And would the seating layout be kept the same as it is now? And Gordon, on the back of that, how will you appease the homeowners in Shrivenham Road about a roof blocking their light? Now, as I understand it, Rob, this goes back, this is a case of ancient lights, and you've got to be really careful with what you do with that Stratton Bank roof. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you probably remember as much as I do, Vic and James and Alex. There's been plans going back years about putting a roof on the Stratton Bank. The trust looked at it obviously a few years back as well. I think the general consensus and view is that as long as the roof isn't above a certain height, that it's doable from a planning perspective. I suspect it will still be challenging. The far end of the bank as you move towards the Don Rogers stand does literally, it's in the back garden of a couple of the houses there. Literally, there's no space between the back garden and the end of the stand, so that will impact things a bit. But I think it's doable. And look, we will consider, and as we look to develop the Stratton Bank, we'll consider as to how can we look and whether it can accommodate home and away fans as it did. If you go back before the Don Rogers stand, I remember home fans standing in there with away fans next to them going back. So we will consider those things, consult with the fans, and then work out the plans going forwards.
I think one really important thing. I did a bit of research with some ex-colleagues actually that support clubs that have effectively kind of filled in or turned their open bank or stadium in putting a roof on it. What you tend to find is, if you put a roof on an open area like that, you'll keep a lot more of the noise into the ground. So A, it helps the atmosphere, but B, if you put a roof on the Stratton Bank, ultimately it'll stop some of the noise escaping and irritating local residents. So I would suggest that's probably a positive as well for them, and obviously a positive for the club because it keeps the atmosphere in the ground and it's a bit quieter outside for the people that are nearby residents wise. So, and certainly that's been proven at a number of clubs that have done that. So I think that's probably worth highlighting as well.
Okay, Pete Lango, you used to be roof player at the club. Executive boxes in the corners fill in the gaps. I'll just show that one in there. Malcolm says, sounds like there are still some hurdles to overcome to finance the purchase on both sides, Clems and the trust. Is there any danger if it not happening if potential backers dither, for want of a better word? Yeah, interesting. What about that, Matt? I mean, we are in hard financial times, aren't we? I don't know, I don't know companies, funds, etc. Would they be less willing to get involved in a project like this?
I don't think so, because I think it is long term. It's not something that's short term. I think all businesses will be having a long term fix. I know there are, it is difficult at the minute for everybody, from a personal aspect and from a business professional aspect. But I don't think it will affect things too much because it is really long term. It's not just 1 or 2 years down the line. This will be 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the long term project. So I don't think so. I don't know if you agree with that or not, Rob, but.
Yeah, no, I agree, Matt. Look, I think we've got some good funding options there, different angles. I think we'll be fine. But getting the legals and the funding over the line will take a bit of time, but we'll definitely get there, and we'll get the acquisition done. And the club owning the county ground will be a massive step forward, as we look to build and develop the club moving forwards.
Yeah, if you could crack on with it, because some of us are getting on, so we'd like to, if that's possible. Now this is from Claire. With redevelopment, are there any plans to protect and keep or incorporate any of the iconic fixtures features from the ground, e.g. the Rolex clock and the floodlights? Now, as I understand it, the new plans don't include the floodlights. Is that right?
Well, look, they're very early sketches, so we will look to see what we can do. Those floodlights, that they are old. I think we worked out, didn't we, that they're probably not far off 70 years old. We did have to get them tested earlier on this year because there was a structural engineering report we received one stage, which wasn't very helpful for us. So we had to get them properly tested that they were okay, and I think they got the green light, and they're good for a number of years. But it is something we have to consider, because to replace those towers is a big cost. So as we develop the stand, we'll have to consider and look at that. The clock, we're very, very keen to keep the clock and keep it as part of the revised Stratton Bank, if we can. It is I think the only ground in the country, possibly the only ground in the world, that has a Rolex clock in it.
Yeah.
So we're very keen that we find a way to keep that as part of the redesign.
Well, I mean, they did that at Arsenal, didn't they? With the clock end clock.
They did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So it would be nice to see it included, especially as Dan Designs has now done a thing of it. It would be nice, really. It'd be a bit of a waste if he did it and then it wasn't. So there we are. Let's have a look. No. Derek says, could the club not purchase these properties if they come on the market to overcome this issue? I believe that some of these houses were owned by the club in years gone by. They could then be used for loan players, residents, etc. And Chris says, go back to how the Rideouts property and the hostel. Now, as I understand it, the club used to own number 1 Shrivenham Road, and that was the youth hostel back in the day. So, Matt, could you get into real estate and suddenly buy half a Shrivey Road? What do you reckon?
If someone wants to help contribute towards it, yeah, I'll be willing to do it. But no, I don't. That's not something that is actively being discussed, as far as I'm aware. But I think people who live there currently, I'm sure they, and even new people buying it would be aware that there's a football stadium right there. I'd like to think, would help, but it's one of those where they'll have their say, of course, when you apply for planning permission. So there'll be consultations around that. But I don't think it's not going to be in the budget to go and buy up some more houses, unfortunately.
No, you're not Liverpool, I think it's fair to say, are you, at the minute?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. No. Give it 10 years, you might be. Let's have a look. Trevor says, is the option to turning the pitch with a complete new stand totally ruled out? And Terry, can you not move the pitch towards the town end if you're building a new stand at that end, therefore having a roof on the Stratton Bank forward? Is that an option? I mean, does the car park come in this as well?
Yeah, the car park's in the freehold. So the freehold is pretty tight, to the Arkle side, to basically the fence where the cricket ground is, down to the back where the parking is opposite the foundation, tight to the back of the Stratton Bank. But then it does go up to Shrivenham Road on the Don Rogers side, and it does include the car park and the area, where the shop used to be, where the community sort of temporary buildings are. So it's a good sort of space and site. So it does give us some options, especially as when we look at the town end development, which obviously in current view would be around about phase 3 of the development. So that would be an option. But I think we've got a good stand in the Don Rogers stand. Structurally the Arkle stand is a good stand. So I don't think we'd be looking to shift and move it within our plans. It should just be a bit too costly and expensive, but there's definitely options when it comes to the town end and what we do there.
Yeah, fair enough. Pete says the players used to stay at the hostel. Kenny Allen used to run it, he did. And Lou used to check the bins to see what the players have been eating. I remember that very much. And there's one famous story where he went round there one night and found a player, whose name I shall not reveal, dancing with a chicken. And Lou said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm dancing with a chicken." Obviously. So there we are. That's what used to go on at the youth hostel. Right. What about capacity, Matt? Because obviously, if you're going to lose seats in the Don Rogers for the executive boxes, what about the final ground capacity? What's the envisaged total?
I think that's a bit too far to determine exactly the total because it will depend a lot on what gets done. You're going to want to expand it. So I don't think there's a set number that is being discussed because it will depend on how you do things with the Town End and the Stratton Bank. I imagine you will lose seats in the Don Rogers, but the capacity will likely be gained in the other two.
Right. Okay. Darren says, are we going to buy the old club shop area back? It's ridiculous. The area is in the hands of someone else.
It is ours, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so yes is the answer to that. You are going to buy it back, or you have bought it back?
We are in possession of it now. So it does get used on match days by staff for parking, and then you will see an Axis fan parked in there at times. But that will be part of the leasehold purchase.
Oh, okay, fair enough. There's the famous puddle behind the club shop. What are you going to do about that? Because that is legendary. That puddle, you know that, don't you? You have to get a boat to get across it.
Yeah, we have explained it to Clem. I think some fans have explained it to Clem, although it was in the summer, so I don't think he's quite seen it in its beauty during the winter, wet winter months. But it's definitely something we'll look at as we buy and take ownership, and as obviously we look at the development of the town, and that's definitely something that we'll look at.
Okay, Alex and James, how have you found this? Because let's be honest, we've come from an era where communication was, how can we put this, difficult,
non-existent.
Yeah, all right, that's another way of putting it. Now you're in this era now. How have you both found it?
It's been great.
Yeah, extremely refreshing.
If you look back to sort of, the previous regime where we were last year and before that, it was a real roller coaster of communications at times. We would have periods where we would actually, have some conversations with the ownership and those behind the scenes. And then there would just be times where it'd be complete radio silence. It always felt like we were, treading on eggshells around them. Even some of the most simplest requests or, asks from our side and offerings of help for, ideas on increasing commercial opportunities, increasing attendances, doing Fill the Stadium days. There was a lot of our kind of ideas and suggestions were either ignored or just completely pushed back. And obviously around this time last year when the previous owner went on the radio to say that we were on the brink, that was obviously when the trust kind of kicked into gear with our open letter. That was the point where we kind of started our media campaign. And that was the point where we were formally excommunicated from the club at the time. So fast forward to where we are now. We have advisory boards. We have great communication with the club. We have fantastic relationship. If we have any ideas, suggestions, thoughts, feedback, we've got contacts with pretty much everyone at the club. And the club has always been welcoming and accepting of us, reaching out to relevant individuals, and everyone at the club is really, open to some of our ideas and suggestions. On the flip side, the club know if ever there's an issue, a problem, they need some support, they need help. Everyone's got our number. There's been a number of occasions this year where Danny's given me a call, or Andrew and the media team, or even Rob, for example, has picked up the phone to ask a question. We're always there. Obviously, there have been times throughout the season where certain sections of the fan base have said we're too close to the club, and I don't think that's fair. I think if you speak to any other trust around the country, they would give an arm and a leg to have the relationship like we do with the club. Ultimately, we are there as that critical friend, and there have been times throughout this relationship since Clem took over where we have pushed back on a number of things and we've voiced concerns, and the club have been open to listening to those, and at times we've not seen eye to eye on certain things, and there's been compromise in the middle, which is great, and that's how relationships should be. So I think we've not even had one season under Clem's ownership and under Rob's stewardship yet. So what we've achieved in a very short period of time is really positive step, and hopefully it's just the start of a very long and fruitful relationship.
And James, Rob obviously was with the trust and now is CEO. So how helpful has that been? That he's seen both sides, as it were.
Yeah, well, incredible. I mean, ultimately, Rob, a large part, or probably 90% of his role as vice chair when he was at the trust, was setting up this county ground deal. So ultimately he's he knows all about it from the trust side, and obviously is now club side. So I think when we knew Clem was taking on over the club, I think he's obviously not silly, Clem. He knew who the perfect person would be based on Rob's kind of background in finance, as well as obviously working on the Counterground deal, and obviously Rob's kind of experience nationwide, etc. All those things together were perfect, I think, really. And obviously being a lifelong kind of Swindon Town fan, you couldn't really get a better individual or profile to be the CEO of a football club, really. So I think really, really brilliant from that perspective. I think going back to the earlier point that Alex just kind of talked through, I think it's well known that the previous owner really didn't like the trust. He picked and chose when he kind of communicated with us, and usually when he did, it was usually because he needed something. When we offered lots of help over the years, and it always got pushed back, as Alex said. I think the club now is like chalk and cheese, because the trust are, as well as the official supporters club, are hugely part of helping run the club and provide feedback. When I say run the club, I don't mean we're not in there every day, but ultimately we're helping the club, because we all know the end of last season there was skeleton staff, both staff actually in the club and also footballers. So we've a few of the official supporters club and some of the trust members, we've stepped up and tried to help in filling gaps where there's been gaps, all the way from helping the official supporters club packing stuff, like deliveries and shirts going out, and obviously helping with in the ticket office. And obviously from a trust perspective, we've been helping in a number of ways with the supporters email group that we've got access to, that we can help respond to fans and help them, plus with some of the stuff, initiatives that have been run, some of the website stuff, obviously some of the fan engagement pieces. So it is like chalk and cheese, and I think that's how it is now, is how a really good family football club should be run, not how it was before. So it's just brilliant.
Okay, lovely. Right, lots of things coming in, so I'm going to whip through these pretty quickly. It's a comment from Robert. He sent me this last night, and I thought I'd include this. Isthmian Premier League leaders Worthing has a player called Ollie Pearce. He scored 33 goals this season so far. Maybe worth the town scouts giving a look trial. I guess people are looking all the time, Rob, aren't they? I mean, and I'll put this to another one. This is from Kevin. Will there be funds available to improve the team going forward? It's good to have a nice stadium, but fans want championship football. So improving the playing squad is, I guess, what we're looking at here. I guess, Ben Garner and Ben Chorley are out looking at players all the time. I would.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They are, got a really good director in football in Ben Chorley, and a great manager in Ben Garner, or I should say head coach. But, they're out looking all the time. We've got a good scouting network. I mean, Matt, one of the roles you've done as analyst, isn't it? So you probably better comment on me than me, really. But they're always out there looking and seeing how we can strengthen the team.
Yeah. What about Matt? Go on.
No, I was just going to say, their scouts. They're out every weekend. I think they're at a game last night. There's a network of them, so they're and especially with the modern day technology, you don't even have to go to a game. You've got the different softwares where you can watch back footage of individual players as well as the whole team. So they're always looking, and they are looking ready for next year already.
Marvellous. Okay. This is from James. Is Clem back this season? I think he's coming at Easter, isn't he? Is that right?
I think he's looking to come back at some page late in April. I'm sure he'll jump out somewhere and surprise somebody to say he's back.
Marvellous. Right, here we go. Gosh, sorry. There's so many of them. I'm sort of scrolling down. This is from Dean, off topic slightly, but is there an opportunity to tidy up the Junior Red Room and the Don Rogers and use it for private kids parties? A great venue with the table football and Xbox, etc., with a tour of the stadium. That's another way of bringing in money, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually, and it's definitely one we can look at. We did quite a bit of work at the start to get the room up and running, and Matt will know better than me, but it had quite a bit of rain in it, got a few leaks and stuff like that. So we've made an investment, made some improvements. It's a really good idea. We'll look at that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason says, will concerts come back to the county ground, and can we have I don't know why I'm reading this one out, but I am. Jason and Kylie as an opener, and maybe have the original cast of Neighbours at a game just for me.
That wasn't your question, was it, Vic?
No, it wasn't. It was
because I know you're a huge Neighbours fan, as I am.
Devastated. I've got
Yeah,
to tell you,
yeah.
devastated. How can it end? Just like Holby City, devastated. It shouldn't happen. Sean says, anyway, move swiftly on. Sean says, buy the pub next and have your own brewery like Spurs. Buy the County Ground Hotel. There you are. Quick in. Buy County Road, Trivenham Road, and the County Ground Hotel, and you're all right then, aren't you? You can do what you want.
Just buy half a Swindon and you'll be sorted.
Completely separate thing. More bar staff needed in the winners' lounge. The guys and girls work their socks off. Just need a few more of them to avoid the very long queues. And I'm sure that's something you're looking at all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, we work closely with Chris, who's been here for years. He's got some ideas of how he wants to improve things. And so we will be looking at making a few changes for next season. And we are trying to get feedback from fans on that. So that is because ultimately they're the ones who are in there every week spending money in this. So we want to try and make it the best place for them.
Is there plans for a sports bar in the design? Could be used all year round, particularly during summer months when there is a football tournament on.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we're looking at and considering.
Right.
Obviously, the more we can get commercial usage, which is, if you like, 24/7, 7 days a week, throughout the year, the better it is for the sustainability of the football club, for enable us to reinvest back on the pitch and stuff like that. So those sort of developments are definitely things we'll look at. Yeah,
absolutely. And it goes back to the North American thing, Matt, doesn't it? Because that's something they're really, really good at, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. And that's what the sports bar is something I think, whether or not they're rivals or not, but Bristol City have one. And they've made a success of that. And I think that's something we can do to help also just improve the local area for Swindon. If it's somewhere sports fans can come and watch any sport, benefiting the club in hand, then that's something we want to look at. And like Rob said, it's, there's only 23 home games a season in the league. Yes, there's a couple of cup games, but then the rest of the year we need to make money. So that then can be put back into the club in all different aspects.
Yeah, it's a lesson I always learned from Mike Bateson, who used to be chairman of Torquay. They built a pub called the Boots and Laces on the end of Plainmoor, used all the facilities all the way through the year, and they were one of only 6 clubs in the entire league to make a profit, which is incredible for a club like Torquay. It's changed a bit since then. Bring back the bottle bar at the back of Winners to ease the congestion at the bar. Simples. I'm never been in the Legends that much, so I don't know. But anyway, there was an idea. Dan Designs, hello to you. Evening, guys. Hope you're all doing well. What's it going to take to get my county ground design onto the wall of the redevelopment? Joking aside, it's great to see the club going in the direction it is, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Swindon Town. He's been a big part of this, hasn't he, Dan Designs? He's suddenly kind of, I don't know, come onto the scene, and wow, what a part of Swindon Town.
Yeah, he does great work. We love his designs. The players love his designs, and obviously you can buy them in a shop now.
Yes, you can. Graham says, renewed my season ticket at the club shop. The staff in the shop don't get enough credit, in my opinion, for a great job they do. Well done all. There's lots more. Oh, players' contracts, briefly. Can you tell us what the situation is with that? Obviously, a lot of them are, I think, coming to a close this summer. Is that any of your responsibility, or is that the playing side?
We let Ben Garner and Ben Chorley work that through. They're on the case. Don't panic. Don't worry. They're working it through. They'll come to us and we'll check the money side of it. But yeah, they're very much on the case working that through.
Fair enough. James says, in pre-season, would it be possible to have an open training session for fans to attend? They've had them in the past, haven't they? They've been very successful. So is that something you'd be looking at?
Yeah, definitely. And there is something that we'll be announcing shortly that will be happening during the Easter half term. So that will be going out shortly from the club, where we'll look at doing something similar. Won't necessarily be a training session, but hoping to do a meet and greet. But then going forward, that is something we want to do, because it's just an easy way for people to come in, meet the players, get some photos, get some autographs, and just see them kicking a ball about that isn't on a match day. So yeah, we will be looking at doing that in the future.
Yeah, I see some of them were down at Wagamama last night, weren't they, meeting? And
yes, they were. At least they weren't cooking, so that's good.
They did very well, apparently.
Very hungry looking at the pictures, because it looked pretty good, actually, I have to say.
Yeah, it did, yeah. From Pete again. Vic, can you ask Rob if Swindon can hold a testimonial game for the late legend and friend Alan Mack? Couldn't do anything before because of COVID. Portsmouth would be up for doing it.
we can definitely look at doing that. Definitely something that we'd be happy to take forward and consider. And Alan was a legend, obviously, for both clubs, so that'd be a great thing to look at to do. So we can definitely, please contact us, and we consider how we might be able to do that.
Yeah, lovely. Rockin' Robin, in the new stadium, please can I have a dressing room? I love being back again. Keep up the good work. And good old Rockin'. What's happened about a training ground, says Gordon. I know I'm going to let you all go in a minute. I know we've had you for an hour, so I'm going to let you go. But training ground?
So, well, we're currently training at Beversbrook down in Cairn, and we're looking to make some improvements there and discussions to continue in there. Obviously, the training ground in Highworth, that's not currently owned by the football club, so it's not something that we're really focused on right now. But in the meantime, we're trying to make the best we can with Beversbrook and see if we can extend our stay there. But we're also considering and always open to looking at other options that improve the football club and our academy as well. We are a bit nomadic, and that is something that we're considering looking to improve, as well as the ground. But there's so much that we know that we want to do and we can do. It's just making sure that we bite off what we can chew.
Yeah, hours in the day, I think. And just finally, I'll ask you about the court case, that dreaded court case, which has been hanging over the football club. Many people are concerned about it. What is the latest? Do we know?
Well, the latest in terms of the winding up petition that's due in July, and obviously we're quite confident in our ability to deal with that. That debt, that's the loan which we've got more than enough money in the bank to deal with. Obviously, there is other legal action outstanding between other people, but that's not central to the club. There are also obviously the FA charges, and we are in dialogue and discussion with the FA and putting our case forward there. So obviously when we get an outcome from that, we'll let people know when we can. But I wouldn't be overly worried. Clem is a great owner. He's got a great legal team in Eddie behind him. We'll progress and we'll move the club forwards, and we'll keep updating in the advisory board and other ways as soon as we can. Okay, just final brief thoughts then, and then I'll let you all go because it is cracking on. I know you want to have a meal, etc. Rob, your final thoughts. What are how are you feeling right now? Oh, look, I'm really positive about the future. There's still a lot of work for us to do, but everybody's support since Clem's come in, and the number of season tickets we sold, and hopefully the number of season tickets we sell for next season, and fantastic help, and really supports the club and the ongoing sustainability. We've got a great team behind the scenes. It's great for Matt to be on because he does amazing work. He's a great lad and works really hard, but so do the rest of the team as well. So I think it's exciting times going forwards for us.
Matt?
Yeah, just want to echo what Rob said. Really, we've gone a long way this season. Where we are compared to where we were 2 weeks before the season started. That it's easy to look back and think, oh, we're so close, and we're still within a massive shout of doing something that we weren't ever expecting at the start of the season. And we've come a long way off the pitch as well, starting to build up staff and structure that we need here to be a success. So yeah, it's exciting times. There's a long way to go, as Rob said, but it's going to be a great journey that I think everyone here is excited to be part of, and hopefully lots of the supporters will buy into that as well and jump in on it.
James, I mean, I do think back to those days of summer when we used to do these, and it was kind of doom laden. And would we be able to see 11 men kick a football around at the county ground? All those sorts of things. Your thoughts going forward?
Wow, I think I'm extremely positive. Obviously, I think as someone said in June or July that we would be within a shout of. We're just outside the playoffs. The league's really, really tight, and actually, with a couple of good results, the automatics are still not really out of it. I think ultimately, if you'd have said that, I would have snatched your arm off during June or July. And it's all thank you to our recent new guest, Mr. Morfuni. So,
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. We'll let you settle for a second. Alex, just your final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, just it's been an awesome season. I think you look where we are now. and Rob and the guys in Clem had literally kind of 2-3 weeks to pull that together. So you can only imagine what next season will be like when you've got that whole close season. From a trust perspective, everything's looking a lot brighter than it was a year ago. Even from our perspective, our membership has tripled, nearly quadrupled. We've just recently brought 6 new board members on. So we're improving and enhancing what we do and how we represent members. If you'd asked me, at the start of the season, I was asked, people say, what do you want to happen? For me, it was just about staying in League Two, just about survival, getting through this season. So, and I know Rob kind of put that statement out early doors as well. So this could be the most strategic under promise, over deliver in footballing history. But we'll just see where we are come May time. But so far, so good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm delighted to say Mr. Clem Morthuni joins us from the other side of the world. A very good evening, stroke morning to you.
Good morning, evening. How are you? Sorry, I was a bit late. I was late. Sorry.
Well, we'll allow you. What time is it with you?
It's 6 o'clock in the morning here.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll let you off. We won't take you through the whole hour that we've just been through, but we'll let you briefly give us how you're feeling at the moment. You must be delighted the way the county ground sale is going through, the little bits and pieces to go through yet, but how pleased are you with the way things are shaping up?
Look, I'm very pleased. Look, there's still a lot of work. I think a lot of people, our staff, our supporters, sponsors, everything have done a fabulous job helping us and supporting us. But still a lot of work to do, and so I look at what we've done and what we still need to do, and there's still a lot of things that need to be done. So I don't really look back. I always keep looking forward. So, yeah, I'm very pleased. Hopefully we make the playoffs. I always said in the beginning of the season that we'll hopefully stay in League Two. Obviously, we're going to do that, sort out the debts, which we're nearly there, and buy the county ground. So I think we've achieved that. So hopefully now it's just hopefully we can get promoted, but time will tell.
How pleased are you with what's happening? I mean, it seems a whirlwind 12 months, really. We were just discussing how doom-laden we all were back in June, July. And now here we are. We're a bright future for the club, possibly by, the ground's going to be yours within a few weeks, etc. Is this ahead of where you thought it might be? What are your thoughts on that?
Am I surprised that we're 9th at the moment? Yeah, I'm pretty surprised. Everything else wasn't a surprise. I knew what I needed to do. Running the club was pretty easy. I think I've always said that. I think the other part was probably doing interviews is probably the hardest to do for me. And the football side, I think Ben and the boys have done a really good job and keep improving, especially with 3 weeks of pre-season, and we only had 6 players or 7 players or what we ever had, and where it was 12 months ago compared to what we are now, it's unbelievable.
How difficult has it been following the progress of the football team in Oz? Has it been easy, or have you been a little frustrated?
No. Look, I was watching it. There was a couple of games that I watched at 2 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, daylight savings changes this Sunday, so it'll be a lot easier. It'll be at midnight instead of 2 in the morning, I think. So that always helps. But yeah, no, it's hard. You wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning and you look at the results. You're worried that did I win? Do we draw? Do we lose? What's going on? But usually when I win, I get a lot of messages. When we lose or draw, we don't get any messages.
What are your plans now for the next couple of weeks? Are you back over here at any time soon?
I'm trying to come over there after Easter, just trying to work out a few things. So hopefully I'm back over there after Easter. And
that will be for the remainder of the season, will it?
Yeah, it'll be depending if we get in the playoffs, I'll stay to the end of the playoffs. If we don't get to the end of it'll be at the end of the season. So probably straight after Easter, I'll probably come over.
Well, I'm delighted you joined us, albeit briefly, and it's fantastic to see you. And it just goes to show that the club appears to be united. We're in every department, so I'm absolutely delighted you did it. Thank you very much indeed.
Sorry, it's late.
No, it's fine. It's only the evening here. You've got a full I guess you've got a full day's work ahead of you, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I've got a full day's work to go to. So, yeah, my days are pretty jam-packed, and obviously Rob and Matt know that when I either ring them in the morning or ring them at night. So my night, their morning.
Vice versa.
So will you be ringing them tonight or in the morning, just so they're aware of what time you're ringing them?
I'll probably. I spoke to Rob last night, my last night. So I'll probably ring him tonight for him anyway. For a few
Fair
things.
enough. So you're prepared, gentlemen. There you go. Marvellous.
Always prepared.
Thank you all very much indeed. It's been an enlightening hour and a bit.
Yeah,
So,
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
for joining us from Australia. Magnificent.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. I've got one or two things just left to say. Don't forget, the Tom Broadbent Lounge is open at 9 o'clock. Matt Hayward, our regular Monday night panelist, is the guest of Hannah's on that one. And Phil King will be appearing in the Legends Lounge on the 7th of April. It's in aid of NSPCC. Hannah's will be interviewing him. £20 a ticket, and all proceeds go to the NSPCC. So that's coming up on the 7th of April. The Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge is open on Twitter Space at 9 o'clock tonight. Chris, you're muted, Chris.
I am. People have always wanted to do that to me. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for the panel. Thank you, everybody, for that. Thank you for everybody that's watching. I do apologise if we didn't get the questions. You kept me very busy tonight. There was loads. So, as I say, I will put them over to Rob, Matt, to any of them about the season tickets or anything, so they can have a look at those. Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody. We will see you next Monday when we've got John Gorman as our guest. And we will see as many of you as possible at Rochdale on Saturday. So thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you. Bye.